if you want to know if you have anxious attachment style, this video is for you. I'm going to break down the top 5 signs of anxious attachment style. And I just want to emphasize that if you have this style of relating, this style of attaching in your relationships, just know that it was learned. And if you have an anxious attachment style and it's not serving you and you find yourself showing up in your relationships in ways that you don't like, you 100% have the power to change the way you show up, attach, and relate to people in your life. So let's dive in to the top 5 signs of anxious attachment. And this isn't to shame, this isn't to blame, this isn't to condemn or put down, right? This is to build awareness so that you can know, okay, I'm doing that thing, I'm doing that anxious attachment pattern, and that's a pattern that I want to learn how to heal. That is the purpose of this session. So, number one, you hide, ignore, or suppress your needs because you fear that you're being too much or needy, and you put other people's needs first. So, why would this be the case in the first place, right? If you grew up in a home where you developed anxious attachment style, it means that you had a relationship with your parent or caregiver where you learned that your needs were a problem because our attachment styles are rooted in our very first relationship. And for most of us, that's our relationship with our parent or caregiver. So if you grew up in a home where you were made to feel as though, and sometimes this isn't always, this overt statement that you're receiving from your parent, like, stop being so needy, you're being too much. Sometimes it's just the way you are made to feel. Maybe it's just an absence of your needs getting met. Sometimes it's nonverbal in the way that this message is communicated, but somehow you were made to feel as though your needs were a burden or problematic or an inconvenience or too much, or that having needs would lead to your parent or caregiver disapproving of you or just feeling a distance between you and your caregiver because you expressed a need, right? So, what does this then lead a child to think? The child is then made to think, well, when I have needs, this doesn't lead me to feeling safe and connected and close to my parent or caregiver. Maybe when I have needs, I'm yelled at or shamed or told that I'm being needy or too much. So if that is the consistent response that you get from your parent or caregiver, well, you're going to start minimizing your needs as a kid. You're going to start putting your needs aside because you're learning if I have needs, I'm going to face disconnection. I'm going to face disapproval. I'm going to face conflict or getting yelled at. So this lays the foundation then for you showing up in adulthood, putting your needs last, putting your needs aside, and prioritizing other people's needs before your own. Because again, if it benefited you to care more about mom's needs than your own, if caring about mom's needs led you to feel closer and more connected to mom, which was again your pathway to feeling safe and surviving, then you learned it's better to put your needs aside, care more about other people's needs, and then you will feel how you want to feel. This is how we begin to outsource our ability to feel how we want to feel. This is where we learn that only through other people can I feel how I want to feel. And I have to put my needs aside and get mom's approval in order to feel safe, secure enough, etc. So that's number one. Number two, in terms of signs of anxious attachment, number two is if someone begins to pull away, you chase or you overfunction in order to get them to stay. You have a deep fear of rejection. And all of us, nobody wants to be rejected, right? But a securely attached person doesn't spiral, doesn't lose themselves, doesn't begin to betray their truth in order to make a relationship work when they notice someone pulling away. That's the difference here. So if you notice yourself sensing that someone is pulling away, instead of being able to stand true in who you are and stand firm in what you think and what you need and what you feel, you begin to seek this person strongly. You may, write the text message and send it, or rewrite it 20 times before you send it. You send rapid fire texts, or you overfunction, meaning you people please, you try to be this best version of yourself. You be, you're overly accommodating, you're overgiving, you um, acquiesce to what they want while you put yourself aside. You do anything to try to secure the bond and make sure that they don't leave. When you perceive distance, them pulling away, maybe they're changing their mind about the relationship, this sends you into a panic. Your nervous system begins to feel the anxiety and the panic. You begin to dysregulate because your nervous system was conditioned to associate someone pulling away and that distance with a threat to your safety and your survival, like I was saying earlier. So when you sense someone pulling away, you aren't able to stand firm in who you are. You chase after and seek the other person because rejection is too painful. Rejection feels like this ultimate form of abandonment. And why would abandonment feel so triggering? Well, if you have a past experience and an old wound where you were emotionally or physically abandoned as a child, and your nervous system coded that abandonment as a big red flag threat to your safety, then your nervous system is primed to be hypervigilant to any sense of feeling that that abandonment is about to happen again. So that's why we jump into chasing, proving, fixing, earning, anything we can do to try to get the person back. Number three, you drop your boundaries, or perhaps you don't have any boundaries at all because you fear that boundaries will push people away. This was me. I actually fell into the camp of no boundaries. I had very few boundaries in terms of my relationships. I would tolerate anything, and I would adjust myself. I would edit myself. I would be anything the other person wanted me to be in order to make the relationship work. There was no limit. I didn't express my preferences. I didn't say no very often because I was worried that if I wasn't who they wanted me to be, they would leave. And that thought of them leaving topped any other concern. So if I had to do things I didn't want to do, if I had to go and do something I didn't want to do, if I was having a certain feeling, I would push it aside because I didn't want them to know that I was upset. If I felt that my needs were going unmet, or if something they did bothered me, I didn't speak up and say it because I was afraid that if I had any sort of preference or opinion, that they would leave. And that was the ultimate worst thing that could happen in my mind. Now I realize that the worst thing that could happen would be me betraying myself and continuing to stay in a relationship with somebody where it was all about them and me and my preferences and my needs were not considered at all. But that took a lot of growth and a lot of healing. So check in with the boundaries that you set, the limits that you have for yourself. Because if you have a tendency to drop your boundaries, or you find yourself adjusting and editing your boundaries just to keep somebody around, that is another sign of anxious attachment. And why would that be? When we grew up in homes where we couldn't have limits, we couldn't have preferences, if we were again yelled at, shamed, invalidated, ignored, mocked, ridiculed for having our own preferences and quirks and limits, then we learned this isn't going to help me feel safe and connected and close to my parent who was my source of survival. And so we learn don't have any boundaries. Just be who they need you to be to feel close to them. And that's our priority as children. We choose connection over authenticity because the connection is what's going to help us survive. So number four, How you feel about yourself is dependent on how someone else treats you. Big, big sign of anxious attachment style. How you feel about yourself is dependent on how someone else treats you. So when we have anxious attachment style, we grow up in homes where the environment is not really conducive to us focusing on ourselves, focusing on what we think, what we need, what we feel, what we prefer, what we value, what we want, what we like, what we don't like. We're not really encouraged to consider or think about these parts of ourselves. We're more focused on, well, what does mom or dad or my caregiver want from me? Uh, how do I need to show up in this parent-child relationship in order to feel safe? Do I need to be quiet? Do I need to not cry? Do I need to just figure things out on my own and not bother anybody, right? That's the environment that kind of creates this disconnection from ourselves and really discovering who we are. And so this leads us to really rely on, okay, mom and dad are happy with me. Now I can feel secure. Mom is content with how I'm showing up today. I'm not getting yelled at because I'm being quiet and not having a lot of needs. Great. So now I can feel secure. So this lays the foundation for us subconsciously, believing that in order for me to feel calm and secure and safe, it's really dependent on the other person. We're not given the tools and the environment to know and realize and believe and feel that I can feel safe and I can feel secure within myself simply for being myself. It's not dependent on their approval. It's not dependent on them liking me. It's not dependent on me being a people pleaser, right? So if you find yourself questioning your worth and feeling like you're on this emotional roller coaster or this, roller coaster where one minute you're happy with yourself and you think you're great, or you think you're worthy and enough, and you think highly of yourself or well of yourself because someone is showing interest in you and just taking you out on a date, or they're calling you and they are interested in you, and then the second that person begins to pull away or show disinterest or pull back or ghost you altogether, then you think you're unworthy, you're not enough, something's wrong with you. If you find yourself on this emotional roller coaster, it is a sign that you have put your enoughness and your self-concept in the hands of somebody else. That how you think about yourself is really dependent on what somebody else does. And this, again, is a clear display of a lack of boundaries. There's no sense of separateness between you and the other person because their behavior is literally defining how you feel about yourself. So, this is a huge sign of anxious attachment style, and one that I um, resonate with very deeply and was a big light bulb moment for me on my healing journey. Number 5 is overthinking and worrying about how the other person feels about you and if they're still interested, right? We're always kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. We are always wanting more reassurance and validation. We want just that reminder that everything's okay. We never quite feel secure in the relationship. We overthink and we second guess what we said or what we did. And we wonder if we did something wrong, and we worry about how the person feels about us. Um, and this worrying leads you to perhaps betray yourself in some way, do something you wouldn't really typically want to do, or something that aligns with your true values just to make the relationship work. Um, why would this be? Taking it again back to our upbringing with our parent or caregiver. If you grow up in a home where you can't really trust or rely on your parent or caregiver to be consistent and to meet your needs and to be an emotional safe space, if sometimes maybe they are present and available and sometimes they're not, what does this do for a child? It breeds a degree of anxiety. I can't trust my parent or caregiver. I'm always worried about how they're going to be, whether or not my needs are going to get met, if they're going to be emotionally available for me today. I'm always worried about where I stand in the relationship, how the day is going to go, etc. What does this sound like? It sounds like what I just said, right? About feeling just, you're feeling unsettled in the relationship. You're feeling uncertain. You can't really trust that the person is going to stay, right? Because you learn to be hyper vigilant to someone leaving. You learned that the other shoe was going to drop, that the parent would not be emotionally available or present or able to meet your needs on a day-to-day basis. So that's why you become hyper vigilant and you worry about whether or not this person is going to be able to stick around and be what you need them to be. Now, the securely attached person, they may have passing thoughts of this might not work out. We just started dating, we'll see where this goes. And it may lead the securely attached person to wonder where this is going to go and feel a bit of angst or anxiety about how it's going to work out. But the securely attached person doesn't go down spirals, never-ending rabbit holes, constant looping. The securely attached person isn't questioning their worth or enoughness. The securely attached person is able to say, I hope this works out. I'd be disappointed if it doesn't work out. And if it doesn't work out, if this person can't be who I need them to be, I know I'm still good because I know how to take care of myself. I know how to show up for myself. I know how to be there for myself. And I know I'm going to be okay with or without them. That's the difference. And as an anxiously attached person, one of the biggest things that we can begin to do for ourselves is learn how to create that sense of inner security, right? That with or without that person, that partner that you're dating, you can know you'll be okay. You can set boundaries. You can manage your own emotions. You can ask for what you need and seek your needs in healthy spaces. You can know what you think of yourself isn't dependent on what somebody else thinks of you, right? You live in alignment with your true values. This is really what anchors us into feeling secure within ourselves, regardless of what other people do or don't do. And these are the types of things that I dive deep into inside of my monthly membership, the Secure Collective. If you are interested in checking out more, the details are in the caption below. And as I always conclude and want to remind you, your inner security does not have to shift just because somebody else's energy shifts. I'll leave you with that loving reminder, and I will see you very soon.